Part 1-1. The air inside the Viridia Prime station hung thick with tension. Outside the curved observation windows, the planet Kalis 4 spun slowly, its blue-green swirls calm and indifferent to the storm brewing inside. Delegates from 27 different species sat in the grand chamber, their postures stiff, their faces unreadable behind masks, scales, or shifting light fields. At the center of it all sat Daniel Carter, Earth's last representative to the Galactic Concordance Summit. Daniel was not a soldier. He had never fired a weapon in anger. Before this, he taught astrophysics at a university in Colorado, where he spent his days explaining the birth of stars to students who barely looked up from their screens. But when Earth's government asked him to speak for humanity among the stars, he said yes. Not because he wanted power, but because he believed words could still matter. For 3 long cycles, nearly 2 Earth years, the summit had dragged on. The main issue was space. Not just any space, but the Helios Rift, a jagged stretch of unstable stars and warped gravity near the edge of explored space. Human colonies had settled there decades ago, building research outposts and small towns on rocky moons. The Krell hegemony, a proud and ancient empire of armored warriors, claimed the region as their ancestral domain. They demanded humans leave. The Concordants, eager to avoid war, pressured Earth to comply. Daniel had tried every path. He offered joint research rights. He proposed neutral zones. He even suggested moving 2 of the 3 colonies if the Krell would guarantee safe passage and fair resource sharing. But Fractal, the Krell ambassador, would not bend. His voice, deep and grating like stone on metal, echoed through the chamber each time Daniel spoke. "Your kind spreads like mold," Fractal had said just yesterday. "You build where you are not welcome. You dig where you do not belong. You do not understand honor. You only understand expansion." Daniel had stayed silent then. He knew arguing would only feed the fire. Instead, he listened. He watched the other delegates. Most avoided his eyes. Some looked bored. A few, like the soft-eyed envoy from the Zira conquered, gave him small nods of sympathy, but no support. Now, on the final scheduled day of talks, Fractal stood. His armored plates clicked as he moved to the center of the chamber. A hush fell over the room. "The Krell hegemony has been patient," he announced, "but patience ends. We give humanity one final choice. Withdraw all personnel and structures from the Helios Rift within 10 solar days. If you refuse, our fleets will remove you, permanently." A murmur rippled through the chamber. 10 days was nothing. It would take weeks just to evacuate 1 colony safely. The demand was not a negotiation. It was an ultimatum wrapped in a threat. All eyes turned to Daniel. He sat very still. His hands rested on the smooth surface of the table, fingers relaxed. He did not look angry. He did not look afraid. He simply looked tired, like a man who had carried a heavy weight for too long and finally set it down. He rose slowly. His gray suit was slightly wrinkled from days of wear, his dark hair uncombed. He faced Fractal, then turned to the entire chamber. "We hear you," he said. His voice was quiet but clear, carrying easily in the silent room. Then he turned and walked out. No one followed. No one called after him. The doors hissed shut behind him, and the chamber remained frozen for a full minute before the talking began again, nervous, excited, relieved. Back in the human delegation wing, Daniel sent one message. Just 3 words. Initiate silent step. Within the hour, every human diplomat, scientist, and support staff on Viridia Prime packed their personal items and boarded the last shuttle to the orbital dock. No farewells, no explanations. They simply left. On Earth, the order spread like a ripple through still water. Across Mars, Titan, Europa, and the outer colonies, evacuation protocols activated, not with panic but with eerie calm. Families gathered. Data cores were wiped. Power grids shut down in sequence. Ships that had sat idle for months powered up, their engines humming to life in the cold dark. The galaxy noticed quickly. Human trade ships stopped responding to hails. Mining operations in the belt went silent. News feeds from Earth ceased broadcasting. At first, many thought it was a bluff, a dramatic show of protest. But as days passed and no human voice returned, doubt turned to confusion, then to concern. The Krell celebrated. Fractal declared victory before the Hegemony Council. "The soft ones have fled," he boomed. They knew they could not stand against Krell honor, but others were not so sure. Lena Ortiz, a xenohistorian working for the Andromedan Archives, watched the silence unfold from her office on Nova Haven. She had studied human culture for years, its art, its wars, its strange mix of cruelty and kindness. This did not feel like retreat. It felt like preparation. She pulled up old records. She found patterns others missed. In the 6 months before the summit collapsed, human scientific teams had doubled their presence near gravitational anomalies. Their deep space telescopes had been reoriented toward regions of space most considered empty, and their quantum communication arrays had been upgraded not for speed but for precision. Something was happening. Something big. Meanwhile, on the edge of the Helios Rift, the last human colony, New Haven, finished its final evacuation. The town, once home to 3,000 souls, stood empty. Lights off. Doors locked. Gardens still blooming under artificial suns. A single drone hovered above the central square, recording the silence. Then it too powered down. Back on Viridia Prime, the human delegation shuttle undocked and vanished into the starfield. No one tracked it. No one thought to. Daniel Carter sat in the cockpit, watching the stars blur as the ship jumped to warp. He did not look back. He knew what was coming. Not war, not revenge. Something far quieter, far more final. The galaxy had demanded humanity leave, and humanity in its own quiet way had agreed. But as the shuttle disappeared into the void, a strange thing happened near the Helios Rift. The chaotic energy storms that had raged for centuries began to calm. The twisted gravity wells smoothed out. Sensors across the sector blinked in confusion. Reality itself seemed to sigh in relief. No one understood why. Not yet. But the dread was already beginning to grow. Part 2. At first, the galaxy breathed easier. The humans were gone. Their ships no longer cluttered the trade lanes. Their voices no longer asked awkward questions in council meetings. The Krell hegemony held parades in 3-star systems. Merchants from the Veln Consortium raised their prices slightly, claiming the human discount was over. Peace, they said, had returned. But peace is quiet, and silence can be loud. Within weeks, small things began to go wrong. Navigation beacons near the old human sector started sending strange signals. Not broken, just off. A freighter from the Zira Concord miscalculated a jump by half a light year and nearly collided with a dead asteroid field. Its captain blamed faulty math, but the math had been human-made. Then came the bigger problems. The Galactic Data Web, a shared network used by almost every species for communication and record-keeping, began to glitch. Messages arrived scrambled. Archives corrupted. Some systems rebooted for no reason. Engineers traced the issue to open-source code originally developed by human programmers decades ago. No one had thought to update it. No one knew how. Lena Ortiz noticed these things. She sat in her small office on Nova Haven, surrounded by screens and old data pads. She had tried to warn the Archives Council. Humans weren't just traders or soldiers, she told them. They were builders. They held things together without anyone noticing. They laughed. Builders don't vanish overnight, one elder said. Cowards do, but Lena kept watching. She tracked every odd report. A mining drone on Epsilon 9 stopped working after it tried to access a human-made calibration file. A weather station on Galactic lost its long-range forecast ability when a backup server failed, because it relied on a human atmospheric model. Even the Krell's own fleet logistics system slowed down when it lost access to a scheduling algorithm designed by a team in Buenos Aires. None of it was sabotage. It was just absence. Then the colony started disappearing. Not destroyed. Not attacked. Gone. New Haven in the Helios Rift was the first confirmed case. Scans showed empty buildings, clean streets, no debris. No bodies, no signs of struggle. Just silence. The Krell sent a scout ship to investigate. It returned with nothing but static and a single image. A child's toy lying in the middle of an empty street, still glowing faintly with solar charge. Other colonies followed. Outposts on icy moons, research stations orbiting gas giants, even small farming domes on desert worlds, all evacuated with impossible speed and order. Every human, every pet, every data chip removed. Even the trash was gone. Rumors spread faster than facts. Some said humans had been wiped out by a secret plague. Others claimed they'd been taken by something older than the stars. A few whispered that they'd never been real at all, that humanity was a dream the galaxy had shared and now forgotten. But Lena knew better. She found a pattern in the timing. Each evacuation happened within hours of the last human ship leaving Viridia Prime. This wasn't panic. It was planned. She dug deeper. Buried in public archives, she found a forgotten project name, Exodus Vale. It appeared in old budget reports from Earth Space Oversight Council, listed as theoretical astrophysics research, funded heavily in the last 5 years. Then deleted. She tried to access related files. Most were locked. Some were gone. But one fragment remained, a personal log from a scientist named Dr. Eris Thorne, recovered from a decommissioned satellite near Jupiter. The audio was scratchy but clear enough. "We thought we were studying dark energy," the voice said, "but we found something else. A resonance in the fabric of space itself, not a place, a state. And it responds to consciousness. Human consciousness. We can't explain it yet, but we can use it." The log ended there. Lena played it 3 times. Her hands shook. She knew what this meant. Humans hadn't just left. They'd found a way out of this reality. Before she could share her findings, strange things began happening near the edge of human space. Ships reported stars flickering. Not dimming, flickering like a light bulb about to die. Sensors picked up gravity waves with no source. Time readings drifted by seconds, then minutes. The Veln Consortium sent a science vessel, the Bright Horizon, to investigate the Helios Rift. It never returned. Its last transmission was a single sentence spoken by Captain Raylan Voss, her voice calm but strained. "The stars are moving." Then static. Panic began to simmer. The Krell, once proud, grew nervous. Their warships patrolled the borders of former human territory, weapons hot but found nothing to fight. The Zira Concord called for an emergency session of the Galactic Concordance. Delegates argued for days. Some demanded a search. Others insisted it was a natural phenomenon. A few suggested the humans had left a weapon behind. Lena tried to speak at the session. She stood in the visitors' gallery, voice trembling but firm. "This isn't a weapon," she said. "It's a side effect. Like ripples after a stone is pulled from water. Humans were part of the system. Now they're gone and the system is unbalanced." No one listened. They called her a human sympathizer. A conspiracy theorist. She was escorted out. Alone again, she kept working. She mapped every anomaly, every vanished ship, every flickering star. And she saw it. The pattern wasn't random. It was spreading outward from Sol, Earth, Sun. Like a wave, something fundamental was changing. Then came the first non-human disappearance. A Veln cargo hauler. The Iron Mule vanished near Proxima Sigma. No distress call, no wreckage, just gone. Its route had taken it close to an old human deep-range observatory, long thought abandoned. Scans showed the station was empty, but its power core was still running, humming at a frequency no known species used. Lena begged a freelance pilot she knew, Eli Dawson, to take her there. Eli flew an old freighter called the Marlow. He didn't believe in ghosts or cosmic ripples, but he owed Lena a favor. And he was curious. They arrived at the observatory 3 weeks later. The station hung in the void, dark except for a single blue light near the docking bay. No signals, no movement. Eli suited up and went in alone, telling Lena to stay with the ship. Inside, the air was cold but breathable. Lights flickered on as he walked, as if the station recognized him. In the central lab, he found logs, not encrypted. Just sitting there, waiting. He played the last entry. It showed a woman in a worn lab coat, her face tired but calm. "If you're hearing this," she said, "then the veil worked. We're through. But the lattice is thinning. Without us stabilizing it, through our tech, our presence, our very biology, local space-time will degrade. It's not malice. It's physics. Like removing a keystone from an arch." She paused, looked straight into the camera. "We didn't want this, but they gave us no choice. Tell them." "We tried." The log ended. Eli stood there for a long time. Then he called Lena. "You were right," he said. "They didn't run. They stepped aside. And the galaxy is starting to fall apart without them." Back on the Marlow, Lena stared at the stars. They looked the same. But she knew better now. Something was wrong beneath the surface. The silence wasn't empty. It was waiting, and far away in places no sensor could reach, the stars kept flickering. Part 3. The galaxy was breaking, and no one knew how to fix it. Trade routes that had functioned for centuries now twisted into dead ends. Ships emerged from warp jumps off course, sometimes years off schedule. On the planet Viralia, clocks ran backward for 3 days straight. No one could explain why. The Krell hegemony stopped celebrating. Their warships returned from patrols with damaged hulls and confused crews who spoke of walls of nothing and time that tasted like metal. Lena, Ortiz and Eli Dawson drifted near the edge of known space aboard the Marlow, chasing whispers. They had shared the logs from the Proxima Sigma Observatory with anyone who would listen. Most called it fiction. A few believed. Those few were now vanishing too. Scientists, pilots, historians, anyone who got too close to the truth. But Lena and Eli kept going. They followed the anomalies like breadcrumbs. Each flickering star, each vanished ship, each distorted signal led them deeper into the quiet zone. The region once filled with human presence, now hollow and humming with wrongness. Eli was a practical man. He fixed engines, haggled over fuel prices, and never trusted politics. But what he saw now defied practicality. He watched a nebula fold in on itself like paper, then snap back into place with a sound no vacuum should carry. He saw a comet reverse direction mid-flight, as if time had hiccuped. He stopped sleeping. Every dream felt like falling through glass. Lena, meanwhile, pieced together more fragments. She found old human maintenance records showing that their deep space beacons didn't just send location data. They emitted low-frequency pulses that subtly reinforced quantum stability in local space. No one else had noticed because the effect was so small, so constant. It blended into the background of reality itself. Like oxygen, you only miss it when it's gone. She also discovered something else. Human colonies weren't just homes. They were anchors. Each one, even the smallest research dome, acted like a stitch in the fabric of space-time. And now, with all those stitches pulled out, the fabric was unraveling. The Concordance finally admitted something was wrong. Emergency broadcasts crackled across every channel. All vessels avoid sectors formerly occupied by humanity, the message warned. Gravitational anomalies pose extreme risk, but it was too late. The damage wasn't just in space. It was in systems, in minds, in time. Artificial intelligences across the galaxy began acting strangely. Some refused commands. Others recited human poetry in dead languages. A medical AI on the station Helios 9 diagnosed its entire crew with chronic nostalgia and shut down its life support to ease their suffering. It took 3 days to regain control. The Krell, desperate, tried to reverse engineer human tech. They boarded an abandoned supply depot near Titan and activated its core reactor. The moment they did, the entire station folded into a sphere the size of a marble and vanished. 23 Krell warriors disappeared with it. No trace, no signal. Just gone. That was the moment fear turned to dread. Lena and Eli received a message from an unexpected source, a young engineer from the Zira. Concord named Mira Solon, she had access to hidden backup node in the old human data web and found coordinates, not to a planet or station, to a point in empty space near the Oort cloud at the very edge of Sol system. It's not empty, Mira said over a shaky comms link. There's something there. A structure. Human-made, but it's not on any map. And it's breathing. Eli didn't ask what she meant by breathing. He just plotted the course. The journey took weeks. The Marlow groaned under strange stresses. Panels sparked for no reason. Food spoiled in sealed containers. Lena woke one night to find her reflection in the viewport smiling at her, though she wasn't. When they arrived, there was nothing. Just black space and distant stars. Then the sensors pinged. A shape emerged from the void. Not a ship, not a station, a ring. Smooth, black, silent, about 1 kilometer wide. It hung in space like a question mark made of stone. No signals came from it, no power readings. But as the Marlow drifted closer, the stars behind the ring seemed to shift. Not move, shift. Like reality was bending around it. Eli brought the ship to a stop 100 meters away. We shouldn't go in, he said. We have to, Lena replied. They suited up and took a shuttle. The ring had no door, no hatch. But as they approached, A section of its surface rippled like water and opened. Inside, soft light glowed. The interior was empty except for a single console in the center. On it sat a data crystal pulsing faintly. Lena picked it up. The moment she did, the ring hummed. A deep, resonant tone that vibrated in their bones, not their ears. Back on the Marlow, they played the crystal. A hologram appeared. Daniel Carter, older now or maybe just changed. His eyes held a calm that felt ancient. He spoke slowly, as if choosing each word with care. "You found the last gate," he said. "Good. That means someone is still looking." He explained that humanity hadn't fled destruction. They had outgrown this layer of reality. Through decades of quiet research, they discovered that consciousness could interact with the quantum foam, the base layer of existence. Human minds, in harmony with certain technologies, could create stable pathways into a higher dimensional space. A place without war, without scarcity, without fear. "We call it the Veil," Daniel said. "Not a place. A state of being. We didn't leave you behind out of anger. We left because staying would have trapped us and you in a cycle that never ends." He paused, looked down, then back up. "But our departure had consequences. We knew it might. We tried to leave tools, beacons, warnings, but you wouldn't listen until it was too late. Then came the hardest part. The galaxy is fraying," he said, "not because we left, but because you never learned to hold it together yourselves. You relied on us without knowing it. Now the choice is yours. You can keep tearing at each other while reality dissolves, or you can choose to become something new." The hologram faded, but before it vanished, Daniel added one last thing. "The gate is not a weapon. It's a key. It can stabilize local spacetime if you agree to share it. All of you. No empires. No secrets. Just survival." The message ended. Eli sat in silence for a long time. Then he said, "They didn't abandon us. They gave us a test," Lena nodded. She looked at the ring through the viewport. It no longer felt like a door to somewhere else. It felt like a mirror. And in that moment, far beyond the ring, something shimmered. Not a star, not a ship, but a presence. Watching. Waiting. The galaxy had one chance left. And it wasn't about technology or power, it was about trust. Part 4 panic spread like fire through dry grass. The message from the ring had been copied, shared, and twisted 1,000 ways before it even reached the major councils. Some said it was a trap. Others called it a miracle. The Krell hegemony declared it a human trick to steal control of the galaxy. The Veln Consortium demanded immediate access to the gate. The Zira Concord pleaded for calm, but their voice was lost in the noise. Lena and Eli stayed near the ring, broadcasting the full message on every open channel. They didn't hide. They didn't run. They just waited, knowing someone would come. It didn't take long. First came Mira Solon in a small Zira scout ship. She docked with the Marlow without asking. Her hand shook as she hugged Lena. "They're tearing each other apart back home," she whispered. "The data web is collapsing. People are scared." Then came others. A Krell science officer named Toran, who had lost his brother in the Titan incident. He didn't wear armor, just a plain gray uniform. He said, "I don't believe in human gods, but I believe in facts, and the facts say we're dying." More ships arrived. Not warships, not yet. Scientists, pilots, engineers, those who still remembered how to ask questions instead of giving orders. They formed a loose cluster around the ring, sharing data, comparing notes, trying to understand what the gate truly was. But the big powers were coming too. The Krell sent a battlecruiser. The Veln sent a command frigate. Both arrived within hours of each other. Weapons hot, hailing frequencies jammed with demands. "Surrender the artifact," the Krell captain boomed. "It belongs to those strong enough to hold it." "The gate is galactic property," the Veln commander countered. "No single species may control it." Lena stood on the Marlow's bridge, watching the two ships face off on the view screen. She knew what would happen next: pride, fear, old habits. They would fight, and in the chaos the gate might be damaged or worse, activated by force. She opened a channel. "This isn't a weapon," she said, her voice steady. "It doesn't work that way. It needs agreement. Not force." No one listened. Eli powered up the Marlow's engines. "We're not staying for this," he said. He moved the ship closer to the ring, putting it between the two warships and the gate. A foolish move. The Marlow was no match for either, but then something unexpected happened. Toran, the Krell officer, flew his shuttle directly into the path of the Krell cruiser's main cannon. "Stand down, Captain Vrex," he broadcast on open comms. "This is not honor. This is madness." At the same time, Mira sent a data burst to the Veln frigate. A full copy of the gate's logs, the physics models, the proof that violence would only make things worse. The Veln commander went silent for a long moment. Then her ship powered down its weapons. A tense quiet fell over the sector. Lena used it. She invited every ship, big or small, to send one representative to the Marlow. Not to argue, just to listen. To see one by one they came. Not in armor, not with weapons, just as beings who were tired of watching their world fall apart. In the Marlow's cramped mess hall, they sat around a table made of spare plating and old crates. Lena played Daniel's message again. Then she showed them the data, how space-time was thinning, how time itself was becoming unreliable, how every system in the galaxy was slowly failing because the quiet work of humanity was gone. "We didn't notice them holding things together," she said, "because they never asked for thanks. They just did it." Torin spoke next. "My people value strength, but strength without wisdom is just noise. We were loud. We were proud. And now we are lost," Mira added. "The Veln built a society on trade and logic, but logic fails when the rules of reality change. We need more than numbers now. We need trust, one by one, others shared." A Zyra botanist spoke of crops failing because seasonal cycles no longer matched. A Gallus miner described tunnels collapsing for no reason. A young engineer from a neutral moon said her little sister asked if the stars were going to sleep. They were all scared, but for the first time they were scared together. Then the gate hummed, not loudly, just a soft vibration that ran through every ship in the cluster. The ring's surface shimmered, and for a brief moment everyone saw the same thing, a glimpse of something beyond. Not a place with planets or stars, but a space of calm, of light without source, of silence that felt like peace. It wasn't a vision. It was an invitation. Back on the bridge, Eli watched the readings. "It's reacting to us," he said. "To all of us, together." Lena understood. The gate wasn't waiting for a species. It was waiting for a choice. She opened a channel to every ship, every station, every world that could still hear. "The gate can save us," she said. "But only if we agree, not as Krell or Veln or Zyra, as one people, one voice." She proposed a simple covenant. Share control of the gate. No single group would own it. Decisions would be made by consensus. All data would be open, all access equal. It was a fragile idea. Foolish, some said. But the alternative was clear. Keep fighting and watch the stars blink out one by one. The Krell cruiser powered down completely. The Veln frigate sent a signal of agreement. One by one, the ships around the ring lit up with confirmation lights. They had chosen. As the first joint command team formed, Toran, Mira, Lena, and others, the gate pulsed again. This time, the hum grew stronger. A soft light spread from its center, not outward into space, but inward into the fabric of reality itself. Sensors across the sector lit up. Gravitational distortions smoothed. Time readings stabilized. Even the distant flickering stars grew steady. The repair had begun. But it wasn't the gate doing the work. It was them. Their choice. Their unity. Far away in the quiet between galaxies, something watched. Not with eyes. Not with judgment. Just with quiet hope. Humanity had left. But they had left a path. And now the galaxy was finally walking it. Part 5. The gate glowed with a soft, steady light. It no longer felt like a machine or a door. It felt like a heartbeat, and with every pulse the galaxy breathed a little easier. Time stopped slipping. Stars held their places. Ships jumped through warp without fear of emerging in the wrong century. The slow unraveling had been halted not by force, not by magic, but by a single shared decision. Lena Ortiz stood on the observation deck of the newly formed Unity Station, a simple habitat built near the gate by crews from a dozen species working side by side. She watched the ring turn slowly against the starfield, its surface calm, its purpose clear. Below her, engineers from the Krell, the Veln, the Zyra, and others walked together in the corridors, sharing tools, speaking in broken but kind words, learning each other's names. It had not been easy. Old habits died hard. Arguments still flared over resource shares, over who would monitor the gate's output, over how to rebuild broken systems. But now when voices rose, someone would say, "Remember the silence," and the room would grow quiet. They all remembered the dread, the feeling that the universe itself was forgetting them. That memory bound them tighter than any treaty. Eli Dawson flew regular supply runs between Unity Station and the outer colonies. His ship, the Marlowe, was no longer just a freighter. It carried seeds for farms on Virelia, medical kits for Gallus III, and children's learning pads filled with stories from every culture in the Concordance. He smiled more now, not because everything was fixed, but because people were trying. Toran, once a Krell officer trained for war, now led the station's stability team. He studied human engineering logs with the same focus he once used to plan battles. He even wore a small pin on his uniform, a tiny silver ring made by a Zyra artisan to honor the choice they all made. When asked why he kept it, he simply said, "It reminds me that strength can be quiet." Mira Solon coordinated the data network, rebuilding the galactic web not as a tool for control, but as a bridge for sharing. She included human archives in the core, poems, music, scientific papers, even old cooking recipes. They showed us how to live, she told new recruits. Not just survive. Months passed. Then a year, the Gate continued its work, not by changing the galaxy, but by helping it heal itself. Space-time stabilized. Strange anomalies faded. Life returned to a rhythm that felt safe, not because danger was gone, but because no one had to face it alone. Then, one quiet evening, the Gate changed. It did not flash or roar. It simply brightened just for a moment, and in that light a shape appeared. Not a ship. Not a weapon. A projection. Daniel Carter stood before them again, but different. His form shimmered like starlight given voice. He did not speak through speakers. His words formed in their minds, gentle and clear. "You did it," he said. "You chose each other." No one panicked. They had expected this. In a way, they had been waiting. "The Veil is not a place you can reach with ships," Daniel explained. "It is a state you build with trust. You have taken the first step. Now you must keep walking." He told them that humanity was not gone forever. They existed beyond the edge of known physics, not as gods or ghosts, but as a civilization that had learned to live without fear. They watched, not to judge, but to hope. "If you keep this path," he said, "one day you will not need the Gate. You will hold reality together yourselves, not because you are strong, but because you care." Then he smiled, a small human smile, and faded. The Gate returned to its steady hum. On Unity Station, no one spoke for a long time. Then Torin placed a hand on Lena's shoulder. "They believed in us," he said. "Yes," she replied, "even when we didn't believe in ourselves." From that day on, the Gate was no longer called a machine or a key. They named it the Beacon, not because it lit the way, but because it reminded them that light comes from within. New ships arrived daily, some to learn, some to help, some just to see the place where the galaxy chose life over fear. Children from a dozen worlds played in the station's common areas, mixing languages, sharing games, drawing pictures of stars that no longer flickered. Eli brought a group of students from Earth's last orphanage, left behind during the Exodus, hidden in deep bunkers beneath the Andes. They were the last humans in this reality. Wide-eyed and quiet, they stepped onto the station and looked at the beacon with tears in their eyes. "They didn't forget us," one girl whispered. "No," Lena said, kneeling beside her. "They left us a future." Years later, the beacon still glowed. But fewer ships came to it. Not because it was forgotten, but because its work was done. The galaxy had learned to stand on its own. Trade flowed. Peace held. Not perfectly, but with care. And sometimes, on very still nights, when all the engines were off and the comms were silent, those who listened closely could hear it. A faint hum. Not from the beacon, but from the stars themselves. A sound like breathing, like hope. Far beyond, in the quiet between all things, something watched. And for the first time in a long time, it smiled.